Okay. So we have a wonderful re-guest tonight, being Jon Jost, who we invited. God, it's over a year ago, I guess, or about a year ago, April. So it's not a year quite. With your then feature, which I can't pronounce the name. It's a Portuguese name, correct? The film we showed a year ago.
Oh, Immigrants de Ciudad Perdida. Is that what we're talking about?
No, the film about your daughter.
Oh, okay. No, that one. Yeah, it's called, let's see if I remember the name. Little Miracles in Portuguese, Pequenos Milagres.
Thank you for that, because I could remember the English, I couldn't remember the Portuguese, but it was a really incredible experience. But it was the first time we attempted to do this on Skype, and we had too many people, and the thing blew up, which I guess is there could be worse things in life. So we're going at it again because this is important. There's certain film people that I'm enamored of, in the sense of, my faves of the moment, so to speak. And for the last bunch of years, 3, 4, 5 years, there've been 3 people that are equal in many respects of their work, and the response to them is equal too, which is somewhat baffling that they're not more well known in a bigger sense. And I don't usually like to do names and things, but in this case I do, because it would help people who might not understand. And for those who've come to City Salon, they'll know who I'm talking about for the most part. And that's one is Stephen Broomer, the Canadian filmmaker, the young man who's been turning out these incredible digital features. The second one is Martha Coburn, who's going to be part of this series later on. And then there's Jon. And of the 3, it seems that Jon has had a bit of fame, as they call it, whatever that means, fame, at a portion in his life of making it within the film world. And Martha seems to be doing that right now. I don't know how the COVID thing's affected her, but she's been on this wave. And poor Stephen just can't catch the wave, but I suspect he will, because like I said, he's a young person and he's really going at it. What is interesting about their work is it's intelligent, which is shocking. It defines what cinema is and can be, which is even more amazing, because that's one of the things that cinema just doesn't like to do much. And then 3, they're all political in these completely aggressive, but what's the word? Under some subterranean sort of ways. And we're going to see that in the tonight's program. Which is based on collages. Now, one last thing, I'm wandering all over the place because we had a kind of bizarre start. And I was a little shaken up by that. But the collages started out as a way to show Jon's film, The Tourist. But as I dove into this, thinking about it, we have a problem on the Zoom thing. At least I have a problem watching long films as part of the Zoom conversation, because how can you have a conversation when you have a 100-minute or 200-minute movie? So what we've been doing is opting to discuss and show little shorts and pieces and things that lead up to the feature, and then have the feature at the end. So tonight the idea is about 8:30ish, I think, is when the feature Tourist will begin, and then it can be watched straight through by those who want, and then those who pass tonight can go to Jon's site and watch it. In the meantime, I put together a thing with Jon with his collages, because what is a collage? Now, Jon walked away, so I'm not sure how we're going to do this. But yeah, Dan, I'm sorry, Dan, the music's...
I'm making some coffee.
Oh, you're making some coffee. Well, I wanted to get into your first little film, Jon. So can you want to say anything about it before we throw it up? Because it's a perfect segue for right now, but maybe you would like to say something quickly.
We're going to start off with the Iranian one.
Yes.
Okay, I visited Iran a couple of years ago for some film conference, and I'd want to go to Iran since I was quite young, because I like the Islamic architecture of the particularly the mosques and other old, I can't remember the name of it, Soviet, I think it's called, architecture, 1600s. I think that's when it was. And so I sort of wangled to get myself invited to this so I could go to Iran before I croak. And so I went, and a month or so ago, I tried to arrange a teaching job, but then between Trump and, you know, and now COVID, so that all got the kibosh on it. And but I would like to go back and do some. I don't want to teach. I want to go back. So the way I can go back is if I teach. So a month or so ago, just out of the blue, came this thing. Would you give us a 3-minute talking head about Iranian cinema and its impact in the world? And I said, well, I'd like to, but I've seen around 4 Iranian films. I'm not a film watcher. I don't know world cinema much, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. So then then they asked me, well, could I do something else, which I'm also totally unqualified to do. So I said, why make you a little generalized thing about the cinema? They said, okay. So I think they wanted a talking head, but I don't like talking heads. I don't like me. And so I made this little 3-minute thing for them about the cinema.
So it showed up on the doorstep yesterday. So I hadn't seen it until yesterday, but it's a perfect introduction to all I was babbling about before.
Yeah.
You will see tonight what I'm attempting to do here tonight with Jon is give people entrance ways to a long career. This is not a short career. This is a long, massive career of work. And there's no way we could really address it all in one evening in any way, shape, or form. And even the Tourist itself, being the most recent example, has embedded Jon's whole history. That's what I was alluding to about these other histories. This little short is wonderful. It's hot off the press, right?
Yep.
And it embodies the essence. If you really dig down underneath Jon by his talking about other cinema, you'll see his roots.
When cinema first arrived, it was called the seventh art, a new form which embraced the traditional arts of painting, architecture, sculpture, theater, literature, and music. The cinema used all of these and became, for some, a seventh art. Encompassing these earlier traditions, and able to combine them with great effect, the cinema was thought to be a universal language, one that could speak across the globe to different societies and their cultures. It was thought it could work to be a great unifier, transcending the many barriers which our different cultures place on us. It was a fine thought, though after nearly a century and a half, we can see it was more of a dream than a reality. As we all know, the cinema has been called a dream factory, and so it is.
The truth is that cinema is no magic elixir. it is only another human construct. And as with all human tools, it can be used for the good and the bad. Whether it is one or the other is up to us and what we do with it. Inshallah. Inshallah.
Unmute here. Unmute. Hello. We're back.
That was quite remarkable.
Yes. Yes. Incredible. It's funny. Your microphone's off, but I can hear you, Bob. Did you turn it on and off?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. John, if you want to turn yours on, your microphone.
Unmuted. There,
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
We're all okay?
Robert gave you a little compliment. I don't know if you heard it. Yeah, I guess you did.
Thank you. It was quite literally put together like that. Just, I kind of, making movies is like breathing to me. It's not work, it just happens. So, thank you.
Matter of fact, I think when we go back to the little series of clips later, we'll show it again at the beginning because it really deserves to be seen a second time, and it fits quite nicely. You wanted to speak a little bit, and I wanted you to speak a little bit about your collages in general, because you spend a massive lot of time doing also other things than making films, and breathing, and making coffee, and eating something, etc., etc. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, but you fill them up.
Let's see. Well, first, I because the generalized topic for this whole sequence you've been doing is about collage, yes?
Well, it's actually free fall, but it's about the massive amount of works that people do and then how we engage with them.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, when the matter of collage was brought up, I do happen to make collages, but I also regard my films as, in general, is either little snippets of a potential larger collage, like some of the shorts we're going to be watching here shortly, and then on longer films like the one you'll see later, Tourists, I don't. Of late, meaning the last 20 or 30 years, I in general don't use anything like a script. I don't even use an outline. I just start, I have some vague idea and I go find what I can afford. I have no money. So what I can afford is pieces of reality. That's it. I can't build a set. I can't do anything. I just can say, okay, here's a piece of reality I'm allowed to have. Now I'll gather enough pieces of reality to say, well, I think maybe I can shift these around like a jigsaw puzzle and it will turn into a film. And that's very much what happened with Tourists. I did not have any initial thing to make a film. I just was living in Port Angeles and had my friends and made friends and places that I could shoot and places I couldn't shoot. And I patched together and ended up with this film. And in that way, it's very much a collage. It's just, for a long time, I've described my filmmaking as it's a jigsaw puzzle. Except unlike a jigsaw puzzle where there's a painting that you've cut or a picture that you cut apart and put into all these pieces, and then you have to put them back together in the order that they were. Well, instead, it's my piece of jigsaw puzzle doesn't have, it has a random chunk of picture on it. So it has, this street, that mountain, this person, that person. And my job as the filmmaker, because I don't have I don't think of myself as having an imagination. Instead, I collect pieces of reality and I stick them together and find the order where they work to stick together. And then, so it's kind of an inverted jigsaw puzzle of which you only get to see the picture when I put it all back together. So that's kind of the way I think of this. So in my own mind, my films mostly are collages. So, and because I like to do other things, I do make other collages. So I'm going to go to hit screen and I'm going to just run you through a handful of very, very diverse kind of collages. So I hit the share screen, yeah?
Yes, that should pop.
Okay, so I hit the share screen and I want to hit share. And Sunny's not here for this, so now I'm gonna, okay, so I'll describe these as I go along. Okay, here's some pictures. I've lived in Butte. Let me get this so it's the full screen. Yeah, I can do that. Okay, I've lived in Butte, Montana on and off since usually not, I've never stayed there a whole year. Since 1985, when I shot a film there called Belle Diamond that used local people and with no money, of course. Anyway, so in Butte, Montana, there is a large open pit copper mine. And here's a handful of pictures taken of the copper mine. So this is give you a vague idea what the copper mine looks like. It's a huge, it's 3 times bigger than it was when I first got there. It's this now giant, huge open pit copper mine. And these are shots from the copper mine. And here's a collage made of the shots. Another one. These all will be collages now. Using the shots like the ones you just saw. This is, I was recuperating from a back operation in southern Italy, and there were poppies that grew, and I decided I would press poppies against glass and make, in effect, collages with pressed poppies. This is a creekside near Belfast, where I was 2.5 years ago or something like that. I was living in Belfast. And I walked along, and this creek had this fantastic foliage. And so I made collages out of the fantastic foliage. Is everybody hearing me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I just, it's
nod heads.
funny to have no feedback, so I didn't. Anyway, so here are collages made.
They're just stunning, John. I mean, it's pretty stunning stuff.
Well, it's just fun. This is, I was living in Ragusa, Sicily, and there I went on a visit to a masseria, which is a farm building, or a farm with farm buildings in it. And I went into this one room, which was an arched ceiling. It was a storage room, and it had these fantastical, farm tools scraping the ceiling that clearly they had fire in there with soot and whatever. And so I took lots of pictures of the ceiling by itself and then made collages like this. Okay, this is a collage made of, there's a town which my wife comes from, Matera in Basilicata in southern Italy. This makes it look, well, let's say 10 times denser than it really is. So I took a lot of shots of Matera, and then I put them together into a collage like this that makes it look like a couple of 100,000 people city when it's actually a town of 70,000. And this is trees in a park in Belfast, near where I lived, in a park I just walked through. I'll just show you maybe a little bit of the work process. So this is trees printed multiply on top of themselves, which is a form of collaging. And so you can see this, some of the same picture is changed, but just because things are put on top of it or under it. This is back to the collage, back to the pressed poppy petals. There's more poppy petals.
Can you go back? I had a question about kaleidoscopic imagery.
Yeah, like these.
Yeah, is it doubling and doubling and doubling, or is there some kind of kaleidoscope filter that you're using?
No, it's basically taking one of these, which is already a composite of, let's see, I think this is 1, 2, that's probably 2 images, and this is, I think, no, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
3 images across and 3 down. So it's 9 separate images to make that, and then put those together and you get this.
On the one before, could you zoom in so we see a larger view? I finally started seeing some of the detail in it as we
Which
were.
one?
The
This one or the
before,
other one?
previous,
This
previous.
one?
Yeah, no, the one before, that one.
This one. Okay. Can I zoom in on it? Let's see if I can zoom in. I don't know if I can zoom in on this apparatus. Let's see. I don't see a zoom thing. Nope, I can't zoom in on it.
Okay,
But in effect, if I go to the next one, that is a zoom in on it. This is what this one is made out of.
it's beautiful. Yeah. And anybody, feel free to speak up. Don't feel bashful about asking questions or commenting. Please.
So I'm going to carry on through some more, like, so, okay, so there's this, and then this is a collage made out of, in part made out of the one you just saw. And that is another variant of it. This could be printed, 5 feet across. So you can make a really big print out of this and retain this detail. And this is a collage made out of, when I was living in Ragusa, I was struck by the doors. So Ragusa is a small alleged city, 70,000 people. And I like the doors because they all usually, and I had to get an explanation of why were they like this, because this seemed to be regionally peculiar. There were other towns that had similar, but the immediate towns around it weren't like this. And it was apparently because the wooden doors were falling apart from wet rot. So to save money, they would put a metal thing over it. And then they use this little nail pattern that you see. And there's another of the doors. And this is Ragusa, the town I lived in, and this is a composite collage of, I think it's just a handful of shots. And this is the doors again with more, you can see more detail about how the nails were used to put down I found it fascinating visually. And this is a different one of Ragusa. And here we're back to the Berkeley pit. And oh, here's more tree stuff. Did we go through all this? This is different. This is different.
Wow.
And back to the more stuff with the petals. And here's one that I've been working on. This is intended to be printed 5 feet high. And it's shots of, this was done with this old, an analog camera. Originally, the shots were of a sculpture by John Bologna, a Renaissance sculptor. And the thing is at the Victoria and Albert in London. And I took a lot of pictures of it, and then I made this kind of collage of it. I have another one, but I can't find it right now.
We're soon going to see this at 5 feet tall, aren't we?
Huh?
We're soon going to see this at 5 feet tall, for real.
Well, I'm having a print made. I have a friend in Texas who has a printer that can do 5 feet wide and 100 feet long if you want. I bought him I bought the paper, and so he'll print this up for me. And this one probably, I think, will be 4.5, 5 feet high. I suppose it'll be 5 feet high.
Yeah, the blanket's going to be
Right,
5
the
feet.
blanket that you're getting.
Yeah, I broke down and asked John if he'd let me try the Costco flannel blanket photo thing. If any of you are familiar with this, I wasn't until John turned me onto the Costco site. But they print anything on flannel blankets for king size beds. So we'll see. Any day now. Yeah.
So I think that's, well, I have a few more collage things. No, that's okay. So that's enough of that. So
I have a question. Do you have some drawings you want to show us too?
Pardon?
Some drawings or watercolors too?
I don't have them here. I could pull them up easily enough, but let me think how I do that. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen right now.
Yes.
And you're seeing now, you're seeing my desktop
Yes, of course.
plus all that. Okay, let me go to, uh, this is pretty random, so I'm just going to, I'm living in Boston now. Let's see, oh, there we are. I had changed it. I had cleaned up for this. So Boston. Where am I? Boston.
What people may not know is that you pretty much are a wanderer in the sense of you
Yes.
wandered the globe, living in various places.
So I'm going to go through this very fast if you want to see work process. So let's see, we're doing this, so we want to, now I want to make this big, yes, and then we'll go through it. Okay, I'm going to go pretty fast. So these are notebooks here and stuff that I did here in Boston. So I've been here since November. These are just notebooks. These are gouache, more notebook stuff. More gouache. This is some kind of soft pastel that a friend gave me.
Astounding.
Some of these are watercolors, some of them are pastel sticks. Unfortunately, they're being redundant because I have not organized these well. This one,
Different sizes, or are they all about the same size?
no, they range from 12 by 8, something in that ballpark, to 5 by 7. Some a little smaller than that. So they go.
Oh, they're absolutely beautiful.
Well, my description of them is I'm just fucking around.
Well, that's it's interesting you say that, because what I was alluding to at the beginning is that fame. I use the word fame, which is a ridiculous word, but the idea of people acknowledging your work and seeing it. Usually, they say most artists it's a good 40 years before someone comes around and recognizes it. But I'm afraid in your case, it's going to be after your past, which is sad, because
Okay.
as we're going to see, especially in The Tourist. And in the shorts we're going to watch in a moment here, you've made an incredible record of your time as you've passed the last 40, 50 years as a maker.
Okay, I'm gonna put this away for a second. Okay. I think
Yeah.
I went through it all. I don't know. It's not organized. It wasn't meant to be shown. So anyway, so I'm going to go away from my screen sharing. Yes? Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, sure. No, that'd be good.
Okay, now I'm back to here.
Ah, there we are. Okay, good. And yeah, and what I was going to get at is that if you have someone who takes, you said you take pictures around you, you make movies,
Yep.
videos around you, and we have other people that are very similar that have gotten a deal of notoriety. One lives very close to us all here, and that's somebody like Ken Burns. But I would propose, or even in Boston, you got, or used to be, Fred Wiseman. But I would propose, and I think you're a little closer to Wiseman than York Burns in your shooting style, that your record decades from now is going to be a really important record of each moment of each decade, because you've made so many films.
Well, I don't think we'll have much humans around in about 50 years, so I'm not concerned about my posterity. I think we're well on our way to auto extinction. So it's irrelevant
Well,
what
we
I
are
do or
one
don't
form or
do.
another. We are for sure. I don't share your proclivity on that issue, unfortunately. It is pretty bleak, the picture that or one could frame it up as such. But it's not the bleakness I'm talking about. It's your imagery. The collages you just showed us don't show us, for the most part, a bleak world. At least that's not the way I read them.
Well, I'm a happy person.
Exactly. That's how they read. Exactly.
I make lots of sad films and stories and poems and all that shit, but I'm a happy person.
Yeah, but there's something else, and this is one thing I'll say before, and I'll shut up, is that John might not have made clear that John was one of the early, what's the word? Not innovator, but users of digital video for making works. He had an epiphany, so to speak, of that this was a way to go. The little video cameras, what about 1989, 87, about that?
In 1997 is when digital video consumer cameras first came out. And I had made 4 35 millimeter films, dealt with producers and just hated it. And along came these cameras that you could do pretty much anything. And I thought it was beautiful. When it first came out, the critics were, oh, this gritty digital video, blah, blah. It was beautiful. There was another person who saw the same thing, same time as I did, Leighton Pierce. He makes beautiful, gorgeous films. And he grabbed on to same time I did. We both saw its potential to do things that are quite not normal cinema. And
you haven't looked back, as they say. You've really just taken it out way over the edge.
Well, it's more fun. Then you don't have to deal with business guys.
Well, that's all part of you made a good number of features in film, whether it's 16 or 35. There's what, maybe 12 of them or something, or 13?
12 or 13, I forget.
And anybody who's not a filmmaker here, it's just an incredible accomplishment. It's just so hard to do, and definitely hard to do with no money. And get them out to the world. I first reached back to John a couple years ago because I felt guilty. I felt guilty when I was at Harvard. We showed all the Vermeers in New York, but then everybody at that time was showing all the Vermeers in New York, and nothing else. And I really didn't know John's work at all until recently. The Facebook connection kind of made me start thinking and looking, and John would send me things. And the more I looked, I was like, oh my God, I spend the rest of my life looking at John's films. But at the same time, every first or second film would be this epiphany. So it was like, wow, this is worth the effort to dig into this. So I'm hoping we can share that same experience with you tonight. And I think this cluster of films that we have coming up will give you a nice ballpark picture from the frivolous, as you put it, to literally incisive, hard-hitting, direct work. Is very human on the deepest levels.
They want to show film?
I think it's a good idea. We have what is this?
Or
here?
does somebody else, can we get somebody to say something so far?
Yeah, sure. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Ugly paintings, stuff like that.
Okay, how about this? So let's get a show of hands for everybody. How many people want to see the Iranian video one more time? How about that? Let's try that. Yeah, okay. That was 2, 3, 4. That's enough for the non-blank screens. Thank you, Mr. Cadell. Yes, I like this. This is good. So we'll show that again, Louise. Thank you, Louise. We'll show that again, and all of them have titles. I think they all have dates. They're all self-explanatory. So I think that's all that needs to be said. Correct?
I don't know if I put dates on. I guess I put a date on somewhere.
Well, we're oscillating between
Usually at the end.
2000, 2002, 2001,
Yeah, okay.
2018. Yeah. So
I think these are all digital shorts. These are all made since 1997.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, the last 10 years, or even the last.
I did make a good number of film shorts way back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, an amazing body of work, and it traverses each generation's interest and focuses too, which is fascinating. But your personality, whatever that may be, that we're seeing tonight and talking about, is in them all very clearly. So let's run to you the we together thing again. Let's see if I need to do this again. There's where we're going to go. Okay. And we'll see, I think it's about 35, 33, 34 minutes from now. So about a little after 8 o'clock-ish, we'll be back. Okay? So enjoy these movies. Jump over to the We Together. I got to jump over and we'll fire this up.
I forget, how do you jump over there? Excuse me.
On the chat window, do you have your chat window?
Oh, in the chat window, I got that. Okay.
And then just click that.
Okay.
Everybody else okay?
Yep.
Everybody good? Okay, so I'm going to re-fire up the Iranian film and enjoy.
Yeah, like you are out to really do this, and somehow it doesn't. Yeah. And then you slowly keep doing it, and you start to get angry about this failure. And the anger turns to sadness and to crying. And now, because you're so unhappy with yourself at this failure, you slap yourself with your right hand.
No, Gary. Please, no. I did pretty quick.
Miles to Port Angeles and then loaned me his pickup truck to drive around the peninsula and find where I wanted to live for 2 weeks. And you know, at that time, I didn't understand that he was angling to act in one of my films. He declines to say that he was doing that, but I know that's what he was doing. He was, you know, trying to stick his foot in my creative door. And he's not the kind of person I would normally say, "Oh, wow, I want to put you in front of a camera that looks every." There just wasn't. And so he basically was very nice to me and pestered me for like 3 or 4 years before I finally put him in a movie. And
What do
then
you
the first movie he was in great. So after that, it's been, "You want to be in another movie, Steve?" And he's played very different roles in all the things, you know. So anyway, so I went to Port Angeles and I did have it, you know, I'd already read Carver, and then it turned out that Carver had lived his last 10 years in Port Angeles and he was buried there. And so, and I went to the grave and I found a little box full of with notebooks in it where people come and write whatever their thoughts are. And I assume that the people who come and they're literary tourists, right? And there must be, in somewhere in the literary world, there must be, the word must be out that under the bench at Ray's grave is a little metal box and you can take it out and scribble your thoughts there. Because I mean, if you were just a normal person, you wouldn't even notice the box, or you might notice the box, say, "What the fuck is that?" But you wouldn't open it up and see there's, you know, a notebook in a Ziploc bag because it's very wet and rainy there. And people have written in it. So I saw that. I took a photo of every page of it, and then I went back a number of other times. There'd been maybe since I went there the first time, maybe 2 or 3 notebooks have been gone through. It's diminishing because his fame, like, you know, time goes by and your fame diminishes. So it's been I noticed that it's ever fewer people writing in it over time. And originally I thought I wanted to write an essay about the people who write in that book and literary tourism, because I don't understand it. You know, I like to go to cemeteries, but I'm not, you know, I don't care if somebody's famous or not. You know, I don't go to a cemetery to go see Jim Morrison's grave or something like that. Yeah, I might cross them by accident, but you know, I did in Paris. By total accident, I crossed Mélier's.
I was gonna say, but that cemetery is just loaded. What is it, Montparnasse? I
Yeah,
think
it's loaded with famous people.
Yeah, it's just
or the
yeah,
ashes.
trip over them. Literally.
Anyway, so the original, you know, whatever this original seed was to write an essay about these things that people wrote and what are literary tourists and all that. So the idea of literary tourists was in my head. And then when it came time to, and then when I made the movie, it just seemed like, oh, that seems like a good title, Tourists. But tourists has a broader, you know, it isn't literary tourists, it's tourists on the planet. So,
Well, I was babbling on at the beginning about your photography and capturing a zeitgeist, and I think everybody just saw in the few examples of your realistic images, they're stunning, and the just absolutely stunning, and which we're going to see in the tourist is full of stunning images of a place and places. beyond the acting and the characterizations. And that's interesting, you know, a defining thing throughout your whole career too, is this idea of trying to capture an image. And it seems like digital brought this to fruition for you in a way that you couldn't do in film, even in 35. They're gorgeous, lots of your shots, but they're even more gorgeous in digital.
Well, I don't have any problem. My only problem with digital is what happened is, unfortunately, I like the early DV.
Original DV,
In part because the cameras had all those goofy things, like you could solarize in camera, or you could do strobe, and it would be like an in-camera step printer, and you could do all these things, but that's not professional. So they got rid of all that.
Yeah,
And I like to play with those things. I wish they had it in my HD camera, because I would continue using those things, but that wasn't professional. They just want a clean, slick TV image, in a professional TV.
I very rarely see images as beautiful as yours, even by professionals. I mean, I'm not sure, it's your eye, obviously, but the two of
No,
you
I have a truck full of lighting.
on top of it. Yeah. And that's great. But let me interject quickly. Dan Bomberg had a question that he asked. He said, "My apologies if you explained this already. I kept losing my computer connection. But could you say something about how you made the apparently mirrored images in the last piece, which is, I assume, Requiem?"
Oh, it's very, I just, on a computer editing system, very simple. On Premiere, you just take the image, shrink it, flip it left, right, flip it upside down, put the four together, and you've got it. Takes about 10 minutes.
But it was much like the still images you showed us. It takes a while for you to put the pagination.
Oh, the still images.
No. I mean, it's the same sort of technique, though.
I don't quite follow there.
The still images seemed built the same way, that you were mirroring images.
Well, some of them are. In general, I don't like, kaleidoscope type imagery, because it's too easy, right? It's too simple. I mean, if you make a kaleidoscope, everybody will watch it, is because it's a vortex. And I tend usually to, when I was making that last film, I was kind of gritting my teeth, but I thought, well, here it kind of works, in part because the original material I had was so degenerated. I mean, the video material was not very clean, because it was online that I got it. And, I ended up sort of grudgingly saying, okay, it sort of fits here, but usually that kind of imagery turns me off because it's too easy.
Yeah, or it's an app.
Oh, well, these days it would be an app, yes. So,
I wanted to step backwards in time before we jump into The Tourist, and to go back to your old feature films, because there's in the spirit of the collage program. It was funny when I realized all your films that are online, which everybody can see, almost everything Jon's made at his Vimeo or YouTube sites, but the trailers were really fascinating for the feature films, and I made a little collage of them, 4 or 5, that we're going to run through in a minute. But what was striking to me was remembering the films that I'd seen, because that's what trailers do. They give you that little mind push. But the other thing is the themes that you're still dealing with today are permeate these trailers and these early films. It's all there. You're making the same film over and over again in many respects, but 40.
Thanks a lot.
No, this is a compliment. That's hard to do. That's not. Yeah, no. Well, you'll see when you see these little snippets. I mean, they're trailers. So I assume you edited most of these trailers.
No, my wife edited them.
Okay.
She should get a job as a trailer maker, because her trailers are better than my films. Usually trailers for a movie makes me not want to see them.
Interesting.
Yeah, I hate trailers. When I go to movie, with a few times I go to a cinema and they have the trailers at the beginning with the I'd say, I never want to see that movie. And the trailer is the surefire way to make me say, I don't want to go to that movie, because the way they make them, it makes my skin crawl to watch them.
That was a bad pun. You said surefire. That's
Marcella, she hadn't seen most of those films before she made she looked at them once, and a day later gave me my trailer. So she was able to just get the essence, condense it, put it together, and one day look at the film, make a trailer that makes more sense than my movies do.
Well, then I feel like I'm working in a tradition here. I patched them together, but they'll be enjoyable, I think, because they do reflect what I was saying earlier. There's scenes that you see in these, even in these little brief snippets that pop up and extended to today in The Tourist. You're going to see them repeated but played out, and it's interesting. You made a comment to me earlier at some point that Zoom now is interesting you as a potential movie.
That what?
Zoom.
Yeah, no, I'm
The idea. What
starting to think of.
what's percolating up there?
Yeah, I don't really, I don't usually ask what's, I just know something is percolating. Actually, today I kind of got the consent from somebody I knew that I met in Nebraska in 2006 or so.
Mhm.
And he has 2 children who were basically born with no brain.
Ooh.
And I visited them and it's been in the back of my head ever since. He's a fundamentalist Christian. And just the other day, he sent me a picture of his son in a wheelchair who just had an operation to lengthen his, what's the tendon on the back of your thigh, whatever that's called, because it was all tightened. So his legs were all, so to try to help him sort of walk with a walker, they just extended his, whatever you call those things. And I finally got up the gumption to say, Todd, can we make a really serious movie about, I'm an atheist, you're a fundamentalist, we get on fine, he's a very nice guy. And I just don't fathom what you have done. I just don't get it.
Mhm.
So I don't know that they knew their children would be like that before they were born or not, but if they just done nothing when they were born, that would be it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
instead that they have
We
this.
all know parental love is a deep thing.
Well, yes, but there's a whole lot of things that I have questions about. Say, well, in order to keep if you hadn't fed these children right off the bat, they would have lasted a day, and that would have been that. And instead, vast amounts of money, not just theirs, it's social money, So in order to keep their child alive, we ask that 100 other children die somewhere else. And I don't quite get that. I don't get you with that kind of thing. So he agreed that we'll explore this.
Which means Zoom's going to be involved to be able.
Well, I told him maybe we would use Zoom. It might be one interesting thing to do. I don't know. I don't think about these things too much, but that one's been percolating in my mind since 2000, whatever it was, 6. So finally I said, oh, let's bite the bullet and see if he's willing to do it. I know it will be painful for him.
Well, I'm sure this comes with age more than anything else, because I know the film we showed last year, about your daughter, was a very painful film for you to make, I would assume. It seemed like you were trying to sort out.
Well, yeah, I couldn't make that. It took me 15 years just to look at the material.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. But does this come with age? Is what I'm getting at. This focusing on these.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also kind of shit or get off the pot.
Well, I guess we don't have a choice.
If you don't do it before you croak, you're not going to do it.
Right. Well, bouncing back to the earlier films, again, we're doing this in the abstract I'm not sure how many people have seen which of your films and all that kind of stuff, but we're going to see these couple trailers, which are Rembrandt Laughing, Surefire, Stage Fright, Angel City, and The Bed You Sleep In, which is a mixed bag. But the themes of those films, there's some heavy stuff in those. Would you say heavy? I'm very glib, obviously, but the themes that you're thinking about now, like the daughter's film, the film you just explained, you're thinking about, or even The Tourist, are these things that you couldn't have made 40 years ago? The films you're making, the themes, the ideas that you're expressing. Did your life inform you to the point to be able to do what you're doing now? That's what I'm saying.
Well, of course, yes. But flip side, I've been making those kinds of films since 1970.
Right. That's my point. It's not the same.
And my films tend to be simultaneously, I hope, oftentimes they're comic, but they're also serious. People often ask me, well, how come somebody always dies in your movies? Which is almost the case. Somebody does die in nearly all my movies. And I have a very simple answer. You can't talk about life if you don't talk about death. It's an integral part. And if you just ignore it and pretend, make any story that does not say this is part of what you're doing, you don't have to show somebody dying. You just have to show consciousness of it. And my view is, you know, I can't make a film that's honest about life if it does not include death in it.
Which I want to make one last side trip before we watch the movies, and that is there's a whole genre of your films that we're not engaged with this evening, which is again related to the digital video, and that's the long films, the quasi slow cinema films, or I guess they're not even quasi, they are the extended views. Can you talk a little bit about those films?
Are you talking about the landscape films?
Yes, because they're
I like
quite
landscape.
wonderful too.
Huh?
They're quite wonderful too, but a different.
Yeah, they're a different thing. Although, for those of you, I have like the 3 landscape films where you look at Bowman Lake and Glacier Park for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And it appears to be in real time. And on one level it is, because the actual shot you're seeing is real time. It's just a sequence of shots like 3 or 4 minutes long. And then I do a 1-minute dissolve and you can't see it. And so after 2 hours and 20 minutes, you've seen a whole day. And, but the way you've seen, I really generally like that film Koyaanisqatsi, I loathed, right? Because it shows everything false. Time doesn't go like that. Landscapes don't do that. Clouds don't go, clouds do what clouds do. So my landscape films, I try to catch the reality, right? But like any artist, compress some to get to. Anyway, so those things are people will find it funny. I have never watched Bowman Lake, and I have not watched Canyon, and I haven't watched Yellowstone. Because I stood there all day, and watching the movie is very different from making it, because watching the movie, you don't get to look over this way or that way. You get here in the frame, you get what's there. You don't get the distraction of the bird and the campers or whatever, you get that. So it's not the same, but I don't have time to watch movies like that. I have time to make them, but I don't have time to watch them. I'm a lame spectator. I hardly ever watch movies, or anything else. I have never, I don't have a TV. I would not want a TV. I don't want to spend my time looking at stuff like that. So I'm just.
Wow. So we're really lucky to have you here tonight to look at all of us and looking at you. And a lot of silence too. Well, how about this? There's 10 minutes, 12 minutes of these little collage features. We'll go away to that. We'll come back and you can introduce the tourist, and then we'll jump into the tourist and call it an evening. Does that sound good for everybody? Unless somebody wants to say something, now's a good time. Croft ever says yes. Sean said, okay. So the link's the same. I'll put it up again. There it is in the window. I think that's it. Is that it? Yeah.
Yep.
And we'll be back in 12 minutes. Okay. Thank you, John. That was wonderful. Yeah.
It had a lot about the usual things that you expect. For instance, action, violence, money, sex.
Hi there, I'm Pierce Del Rue, president of the Rexton Corporation.
We have no reason to believe at this time that there's anything other than an accidental death in this situation.
But Gloria was saved, despite bad reviews, with a 4-picture contract in the 7-figure area.
Los Angeles, exploding, imploding, a matrix insidious, deceptive. dangerous. Smart ass.
So I don't think I don't know, you know. I dare not say because I don't really know what I'm going to do because I don't know whether I will be dead next week or if my father lived to 99. I will. I lived an independent life. I have no social security. I have no pension. I have no health insurance. I have none of that given American stuff, and I can't afford to live here, among other things. So.
Palermo is a wonderful place. It was one of the first. That was the first place I ever traveled in my life as a college student going abroad. Was Italy, and I certainly so overlooked. We saw Palermo from a hillside, from the very top of the place. But wonderful. As I had one more question, and now instead of the future, I want to go way back. Maybe when you began. Or I guess what I wanted to ask was, what as a person of many artistic talents, it seems that what made you focus on the seventh art, and in particular, when you were I don't know how long you've been a filmmaker now, for over half a century, right?
A little more than that.
Remember how far back was it when you became particularly interested in that art?
I don't have a rational explanation. I didn't give a damn about movies as a kid. It sounds ridiculous. I was sitting around with my friends during the Cuban Missile Crisis, waiting to be fried by a nuclear bomb, drinking really lousy red wine and smoking really lousy dope, and waiting to die. And then the Cuba and I arranged to escape to New Zealand by selling everything I had, and got just enough money to get to New Zealand. And then the Cuban Missile Crisis was over, and so instead I bought a Bolex and went to Europe with $150. I have not the faintest.
Right.
So what can I say? That's what happened. So, you know, it's like being struck by lightning. And and when I started, I have never in my life thought about a career, right? I mean, I just happened to make movies.
Well, you were successful at that part. You avoided the career like the plague. I mean, or did it avoid you? How do you look at that? It's an interesting question.
I had never, for a very brief while, because I had friends in the person who made the film The Murder of Fred Hampton, Mike Gray.
Mike, yeah.
He moved to Hollywood from Chicago, where he had let me use some of their equipment in my very early filmmaking. And he did the script for The China Syndrome and was supposed to direct it and got pushed out of it by Jane Fonda. Probably a good thing, because he didn't end up to knowing how to direct that kind of movie very well. And so for a very brief while in the late 70s, it appeared that one might be able to use the Hollywood distribution mechanism to say something worth saying. But I was briefly there, and you know, in less than a year, I was disabused of the idea that I wanted anything to do with these people. So I made 2 scathing films about Hollywood and all that. So it's just never interested. You know, I had this, you know, maybe a year that I thought you could manipulate the system to say things that the system isn't going to let you say. So I said, okay, I'm out of here. So
and then the similar sort of thing occurred with the I don't know what you call it, I guess the festival circuit. I mean, you were a darling for many years. I mean, some of those quotes on the trailers we just watched are, you know, effusive to the nth degree. You know, from some of the big names.
Well, I made what they would consider a mistake, is that I shifted to DV too early. Like I used to, the Berlin Festival would basically show anything I made. And then I switched to DV and they said, well, we'll put you in the video sidebar. And I said, no, you won't. And then they threw a snit and never invited me again. So,
Yeah, it was a horrible, if anybody that was alive and working at that time, it was a horrible period because it was this great tool. It was a home consumer item, the DV camera, basically. But it wouldn't be accepted. Even the art world, the people like the avant-garde, they didn't even want to deal with it at first. It was very interesting, the rejection of digital video.
well, it's just the way it was.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, what kind of camera? I mean, this is a dumb question, but what kind of camera are you using right now?
Right now I have a Panasonic, I don't know the number on it. It's a 4K Panasonic thing. Nice. I mean, it's a big, it's not a big camera, but it's the way digital video cameras are. It's not a professional one. I find them way too complicated to use needlessly. So it's a very nice, good camera. I can't remember what it's called, but and my first HD camera was 2K, like most of them were, and cost $8,000, and this one cost $3,000. Isn't better. So,
and you're doing all your editing on your PC, I take it, yes?
I do it on what I'm have right in front. It's just a gamer's PC. Gamer's stuff has the same stuff you need to edit on, lots of memory, fast chip. I have 32 gigabytes of memory in my thing here. Huh?
Louise put up her hand.
Hi, John. We met, actually. We had dinner together in Emerson when I was teaching at Emerson College.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember. That was quite a while ago, and that was our only encounter. But it's nice to join tonight. And Bruce, I never met you, but we crossed paths. And
yes.
Nice to see the other folks too. John, I actually was wondering, daily, it seems like you're always creating daily, right? You have a practice daily to
create. I'm always what?
You create daily in some medium or another, right?
Seems like I do.
Yeah, yeah, it seems like
but
I try to follow, I don't always, but
yeah.
I love seeing the different, I only knew your films before the old social media connections,
Yeah.
And I was wondering, well, first of all, I love the drawings, and now does that include filming as well daily?
No.
No, you do.
It used to be I carried a video camera with me all the time. I probably did shoot, and I advise young students, and I say, if you're not shooting every day, you're wasting your time. You don't need something to shoot. You don't have to have a story. You don't have to just go shoot and learn how your camera works and learn how to see. And maybe at some point you'll say, well, now I want to make a film. But if you don't, it's like a musician. If you don't practice, you play like shit. Right?
Does one inform the other? One of the mediums inform like the others, like your films in particular, the music or I know you mixed the soundtrack for one of the pieces. We said, you messed with the music, so to speak, like you were talking about that. But I don't know, the drawings or whatever, how does that inform the filmmaking somehow?
I assume it does, but I don't know how. I mean, I don't. I don't think about any of these things. People ask sometimes, and they ask about making films. I say, I don't think about it. I just, toss me, or I toss me some vague thematic line, like they say, play me, and I look at it as like I'm a very experienced jazz musician. And you say, play, riff around melody X, then I'll play, but I'm not thinking, right?
Yeah.
I'm just playing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think about when I make a movie. I don't know what I'm going to come up with. I don't want to know what I'm going to. The most boring thing I can think of is write a script and copy it. And this is the most boring thing I can imagine. I don't want to be a photocopy machine. And that's kind of what that kind of filmmaking is. It's like, write it down, write a storyboard. That all is just so remote from what I do. And it's the same, you know, I don't, whatever, the only thing I'm come somewhat, I write and sing my stupid country western songs.
I like it. Actually,
And I'm
commented on.
you know, I'm trying to get good enough so I can pay in public. Even at my remote age, my voice is actually, you know, psychologically, I convinced myself 5 or 10 years ago that I was an old guy and old people lose their voices and forget about it. And it was all in my head. And then I had this Italian guy, a very wonderful musician, say, "Oh, I like your song." I had gone to shoot something. I met him because this French woman wanted me to come to a music video for her, because she had met me and seen my films long ago, because she would work for the distributor, and then she decided to become a singer. And so she said, "I want you to come to near Ravenna in Italy and shoot a music video for me." And so I said, "Okay." So I went and I met Christian, and then somewhere along the line, Christian, "Oh, I like your music." And I'm going, "Huh?" Because, and then he said, "I want to record an album with you." So that made me start practicing a bit, because this good musician is taking me with a modicum of seriousness. So we did record an album, which but I've been practicing ever since, and I'm 10 times better than when we recorded the album. I'm not going to ask him, can we go re-record it, because he put a lot of work in it. But he sort of poked me in the ribs and made me take it a little more seriously. And then it was all in my head, my voice. Now I can project. When I was very young, I would go do screenings and I would play an acoustic guitar, and I could fill an auditorium, a 500-person auditorium with no mic. I could sing, you know, I could project. And I thought I couldn't do that, but it was mostly in my head, because I just didn't say, I can project and do it.
So the question is there a guitar by you right now?
No, I can't do it now. I could put on a...
You could put on what?
Actually, I could put on, you know, a video I made of me singing some of my songs.
No, that's not the same.
No, they're not. It's not the same. No, my guitar is 3 floors up, and I have it set up as a little studio, because I'm going to re-record my songs, doing videos with 3 cameras. And
we might have to come back for another Zoom then. Up in the attic. Hey, one last question from my end here, because well, it's late, but we're all enjoying this, it seems. Your peers, who do you consider your peers?
Define what a peer is. In film
video. Someone you admire, someone you appreciate their work, someone that you.
The people there, I don't like what he's doing on TikTok, but Leighton Pierce is one. And Nathaniel Dorsky. You know, people who make films have nothing like mine whatsoever. Nathaniel is a celluloid junkie. You know, he's one of my very close friends, and you know, he makes silent, completely you know, nothing. He doesn't like my films either. It's okay. You know.
Wait, he just wrote me this morning. We were talking about a Ralph Steiner film he worked on in 1974.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Yeah, very nice man. What about Mark Rappaport? I noticed his name, and he did the voice on your new Raymond.
Mark and I are, you know, now very good friends. But that only started happening 5 or 6 years. When I intervened on the Carney thing, the Ray Carney keeping his shit. When I stuck my nose in that and was aggressive about it.
Is Ray still alive?
Pardon?
Is Ray still alive?
I believe, I'm told that he is, but he sort of disappeared under a rock after all that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, because you're in his town, I think, aren't you? He's a Bostonian, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he lives. I think he lives out in the suburbs now.
Oh, okay. We won't hold that totally against him. Jon, I think this has been incredibly generous of you to talk with us. I know it's difficult to pull some things out of you here, but at the same time, you have so much to give. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think everybody, whoever's left that wants to turn on their cameras and let's do the clapping thing before we move into the tourist would be really good. I know some of you like to hide behind your things there, but really, really incredible.
I'm gonna put in just if anybody wants to write me, I'm gonna put my email address in the chat thing.
Okay, that's good. Hi, God, it's nice to see everybody. Jeez,
this was great.
Eye contact.
Arthur Coburn forwarded your link. I do follow you on Facebook, Bruce, but she forwarded. I'm in touch with her, and so that's how I only found out last minute.
Oh,
but
wow. Well,
you know, usually regularly.
Well, this is something that's been going on for like 25
Sorry
years
to,
in the basement of the library. But
change.
the COVID moved us over to this format, and this has been nice because we've been
But you were saying, I'm sorry, you were saying before the COVID, you were doing.
Oh, we've done this for
series?
25 years in the
Yeah.
basement of the library. It's like a little living room situation,
Okay.
and it's anywhere from 8 to 40 people, depending on what the
Okay.
event is.
Okay,
And,
sorry to change and divert from.
Well, we can't go in the basement, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to stay in the bedroom.
So do you do these weekly or?
It's 2 times a year for 6-8 weeks, every other Monday.
Okay.
So it's about 16 shows a year, and then home movie day too.
Well, thank you. This was great, John, and I hope
John's
you
incredible. Yeah,
enjoyed,
I'm, yeah.
Well,
I'm a
if anybody
fan
has
of
any
it.
comments about the film, I do like to get feedback. You can be mean, can be nasty, can be nice. I like feedback because I like to know. I don't make films for audiences, and I don't really think about, but I do like to know what people think afterwards. So I put my email address on the chat thing. So if you have any thoughts, please send them to me.
I see it.
Yes.
I think it's there now. Yeah.
And plus, he's easy enough to Google and find. He has so many different
but
things.
I don't see it anyway.
I don't see it.
Any parting
Are you sure you
shot
put
on?
it, John? Because we're two
Huh?
that don't see it. We're two that don't see your email address.
Well, I did put it there, and it seemed to be in my chat list of things. I did.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't see it either. Try it again, John. Put in and try the everyone. Make sure the everyone.
You put it as a direct message to me and reply to.
Oh, you
So
want
I-
to send it to us, Catherine?
You have to put it to everybody.
Okay, I have
Absolutely.
to put it, let me copy it here. Okay, and I say, to, and I say everybody, okay? Everyone in meeting, okay,
just
there we
pop
go. And I paste it there and I send it along its way.
Hopefully it'll work.
You will join the thousands of scam things like,
Yes.
your email is going to be closed down if you don't send us.
You do. And
I'm soon going to change my email because I'm getting inundated with, scam crap. Okay, well,
it's the way of the world now, my friend.
enjoy the film. And please, if you have any thoughts about it, drop me an email in the next day or two.
Thank you, and I
And the
appreciate
film will-
reading your comments on Facebook.
Yes.
One question I have.
Okay,
about
that's a
the
good
film,
place
John,
to put it.
Just for everybody, are you going to lock us out of the film right after it's over? Or are you going to let it on for a little while so people can look at it maybe tomorrow? I just wanted to ask you that question.
I can leave it for a day, whenever.
And I think right now it is password protected. So maybe afterwards, if you could change it tomorrow morning or tonight. I think.
Okay.
I'm 99% sure it still has a password on it, which I have.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody, thank you very much for coming. John, incredible.
My pleasure.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And
Thank
see you all,
Thank you all.
next time we go around. So jump over and we'll get this it's 100 minutes long, the tourist.
Okay.
Excellent.
Good night, all.
Thanks to everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye. Peace.